Hey guys, John here, and I'm back with another episode of John's Conscious Clips where I talk about documentaries that I've watched that are either about veganism or related to the environment or the animals or our health in some way. Today I'm going to be talking about Vanishing of the Bees. I watched it on Netflix, and it's from, I believe, 2009. It was narrated by Ellen Page, definitely one of my favorite Maritimers. She's awesome, but it features Dave Mendez and David Hackenberg, and they are beekeepers from the U.S. And obviously, when I was watching this documentary, I did think a little bit about the act of beekeeping itself and looking at it from a vegan standpoint. There were a lot of things I didn't agree with, but it wasn't the point of this documentary. This documentary really was to touch more about the environmental impact that we're having on the planet, how it affects the bees, and how that in turn affects our ability to grow crops and grow fruits and vegetables, and the importance that the bees have in our world and in our entire ecosystem, and how if the bees aren't here to pollinate our food, we don't have our food. So it is really important that we stop the environmental aspects, um, that damage that process. Just got a few notes I'll read over real quickly. I don't want to make this too long, but about bees, like I said, bees are vital in pollination. They get the pollen and the nectar to make honey, and in the process of doing that, they end up fertilizing the stigma in different plants, flowers, and such. According to the documentary, although this would depend on the standard American diet, um, bees have a hand in about 1/3 of all the food that we eat. It's probably higher for people who eat a lot more, fruits and vegetables. So someone who's vegan per se, um, bees probably have a large part to do with most of your food. Um, Interestingly, bees are a matriarchal society, so they've got a queen. 95% of the population of a hive is female. The men are basically just drones. So yeah, haha, make your jokes, ladies. But they're a very fascinating species. They're very intelligent, hugely intelligent. They've got different roles within their society. They've got their workers, their guards, their nurses, their foragers, of course, a queen. Um, and everybody plays their part within that. So it's a real communal type of society, and really a good example of what we should be. But in any case, what the documentary gets into is in the mid 2000s, a lot of the beekeepers like Dave Mendez, Dave Hackenberg, and some of the others that rent their bees out, on a contract basis to go to different farms and stuff or orchards and pollinate. They just take the hives there, leave them for so long so that that pollination can happen. They noticed that bees were going missing. Like, where are the bees? They weren't finding a lot of dead bees in their hives, or any for that matter. Um, the bees were just literally disappearing. So they were going out to do their foraging or whatever and just never coming home, leaving just the queen and the babies, which is something that bees just do not do. They do not abandon their post. You know, Dylan has found the scratch pad right in the middle of me doing my video here. Hey, Dewey. Of course, she didn't want to play with this the entire time, well, all day so far, just once I started recording and talking to somebody else. But I'll leave it in. Oh well. Anyways, so they realized the bees were disappearing. They realized obviously this was hugely affecting business, but um, all of the other things that I talked about previously were affected as well. They deemed this to be called, they came up with the term colony collapse disorder. A U.S. task force was created in 2007 to try to figure out the cause of this. Through a lot of the different research, they found that there were some mites, some pathogens, things like that could be to blame, but nothing that seemed overwhelmingly obvious for the disappearance of these bees. So the focus then shifted to pesticides. Um, it's a good idea to keep in mind that the pesticides, a lot of the pesticides being used, the systemic pesticides, the ones that actually um, kind of grow within the plant and stay through the plant's life as part of the inside, and therefore are in every part of the plant, the roots, the stem, the flowers, the seeds, everything. A lot of those were actually developed from the same chemicals used in World War One as chemical weapons. So a lot of these pesticides are the same chemicals that were just kind of repurposed as pesticides, and really pesticides only became necessary because we were growing huge monoculture um, farms, crops that instead of having the normal farm that would have, some animals, some plants of this kind, some fruits, some trees, all kinds of variety. Instead, we're having these huge Monsanto monocrops that are hundreds of acres in some cases of just the same thing, whether it be corn or whatever. So, Dylan, this is what happens every time I try to make a video. Every single time I try to make a video. But I'm gonna start leaving it in because it's just it's authentic. It gives you guys a little bit of a blooper to look at. You're beautiful, but you're fucking annoying. All right, shut up. Okay. In any case, pesticides, the systemic pesticides. They realized that these were a problem in Europe back in the 90s. So France actually, after protests and things like that, they listened to their people and they banned certain ones, like um, some of the ones that were made by Bayer, the same people that make your aspirin and stuff. Um, yeah, so they got rid of those, and they realized that within about a year of getting rid of these systemic pesticides, in a lot of cases, the bees made a complete comeback. So it really says a lot about how we treat life. And of course, this was focused on the U.S., but um, the EPA, doesn't look at things like, um, what are the long-term effects. They they'll allow something, and this is the Environmental Protection Agency I'm talking about in the U.S. They don't do any of their own research. They just allow. Well, now this was as of the documentary, which is a few years ago, but they just allowed the manufacturers, the people that need this stuff to get passed and allowed, because that's what's in their best interest, to provide them the research, and then they just make a decision upon it that way, instead of actually looking at, okay, what are the real effects, and should we do any follow-up or anything like that. So in the US, we just kind of, I say we because I'm in Canada, it's pretty much the same friggin' thing, but anyways, in the Western world, in a lot of cases, it seems like we just do something and then worry about the consequences later, and try to just keep with a band-aid approach instead of taking the time to think things through, which I can completely understand why some parts of the world even despise the Western civilizations. It's understandable, really. um, but it's a great documentary. When you look at it from a vegan standpoint, there's some things that you may not agree with. They talk about honey production, they talk about beekeeping, and whether all of these things are really vegan, obviously, is another issue. But this deals with the main issue of, how we're growing food, how we are treating all life with just a let's see what happens kind of mentality, and just saying kind of fuck it. And, the risk assessment that the EPA uses is, they're allowed to um, they're allowed to expose the public to risk as long as they deem that it's reasonable. Well, what's reasonable? Profit, So if it makes enough money and it's worth the losses, then okay, yeah, we'll use that. It's ridiculous. But anyways, Vanishing of the Bees. Definitely a very good environmental sort of open your eyes sort of film, um, because the bees really do act as they act as one way, a good signal of what's going on in the world. Because if they're messing up and they're abandoning their post, and you know, abandoning their hives and whatever, if that whole structure is falling apart, something as strong and communal as a bee colony, you know there's something seriously friggin' wrong. So, anyways, check it out. It was on Netflix. That's where I saw it. You might be able to get it elsewhere. Their website is www.vanishingbees.com. A lot of great information on there as well. And so, yeah, I definitely recommend it. Check it out. Thanks for watching today, guys. If you like these kinds of videos, I haven't done one in a while, but if you like these kinds of videos, let me know. Let me know in the comments if there's something you think I should watch and give my thoughts and opinions on. And yeah, like it if you're into it. Subscribe if you so choose. And we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.